The death toll here in Israel rises to over 1,200 as rockets continue to rain down on Israel from Gaza and now also from Syria and Lebanon. United States President Joe Biden gave a public address last night condemning the horrific atrocities being committed by Hamas. He also had a phone call with Prime Minister Netanyahu where he urged Israel to minimize civilian casualties in their strikes on Gaza. There's also a report out that Biden is working with several other countries on a plan that would offer safe passage out of Gaza for civilians who are getting caught in the crossfire. And no surprises here, the so-called squad in the U.S. Congress made some shameful and absolutely detestable statements about the war. I'm Justin, and this is the Israel Guys. Welcome to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of Jew hatred and anti-Israel propaganda, you should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. Guys, there's a lot of Jew hatred happening right now. You know that here in Israel. Also, a lot of anti-Israel propaganda going out all over the world. So if you want to keep up with on-the-ground information, accurate, up-to-date information here in Israel, make sure to subscribe to our channel. We'll keep you updated this week with what is happening with the war here in Israel. Also, you can join our breaking news WhatsApp group using the link in the description below. Keep you with up-to-date information, more stuff going out on there than we will be on YouTube and stuff. Also, follow us on all our social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. Guys, we're going to talk about President Joe Biden's speech that he made last night about what is going on here. He made a speech, but first I'm going to give you a quick update on on what is happening with the war here in Israel. So here are some updated stats. As of this morning, and I got these stats from the IDF's official Twitter account. As of this morning, the death toll here in Israel has reached over 1,200 people. Absolutely horrific war that is happening, massacre that has been happening here in Israel. This is some of the darkest days in Israel's short history. Never have so many Jews been killed in one day than since the Holocaust. So it's absolutely horrific what is going on here. 3,000 wounded, over 100 confirmed, being held hostage right now in Gaza by Hamas. Hamas is threatening to execute the Jewish civilians who are being held if the IDF don't stop striking Gaza. 5,000 rockets have been fired from Hamas into Israel. Last night, the IDF struck 200 targets in the Al Furqan neighborhood in Gaza. Overall, they've struck about 450 targets in this specific neighborhood. Thankfully, the IDF is still striking strong, striking Gaza strong, being strong, showing force here. Also, last night, two senior Hamas leaders, high-ranking officials, were killed in the airstrikes from Israel. Guys, in some good news, there's a lot of darkness coming out of Israel. As you know, it's a horrible day for Israel, horrible day in history for the rest of the world. But in some good news, the Times of Israel reported that 30 missing people were found in a kibbutz down south who they thought they were being held captive, but they were found in the kibbutz Ein HaShlosha, 16 Israelis and 14 Thai nationals. The missing people were rescued by Israel Defense Force teams. The report said that the group was alive and well, thankfully. Meanwhile, this morning, Hezbollah fired another rocket towards Israel from Lebanon. Could be an all-out war starting with Lebanon. Pray that all-out war does not happen, but it's very possible at this point that Hezbollah-controlled Lebanon could be joining in this war, declaring all-out war against Israel. After the rocket was fired, the IDF said, they said, quote, a short while ago, a launch of an anti-tank missile from Lebanon toward a military post adjacent to the community of Arab al-Aramshe on the Lebanese border was identified. Also, minutes before the launch, interestingly, minutes before the launch, an IDF spokesman, he had issued a media statement. He said, quote, Hezbollah is examining what Israel is doing in Gaza and sees the magnitude of the destruction and what Israel is doing in its strikes on terror. They see and they understand it. After the attack from Hezbollah, IDF responded with strikes. They said this on Twitter. They said, quote, an IDF aircraft a short time ago attacked an observation post of the terrorist organization Hezbollah in response to an anti-tank fire against an IDF force that was carried out a short time ago. In addition, IDF artillery fired at the area from which the shooting was detected. In addition to the rockets that are being fired from Lebanon, Syria also fired several mortars into the Golan Heights yesterday afternoon. Things are heating up on the northern border. The IDF said several of the projectiles crossed into Israeli territory and landed in open areas, thankfully causing no damage. In response, the IDF carried out artillery strikes in Syria, targeting the origin of the mortar fire. So it does appear that things are heating up on the northern border. Lebanon could very possibly join the war. We'll probably see within the next couple days. Pray that Lebanon, Syria do not actually enter into full-scale war with Israel. Pray that they don't seriously get into the war. If they do this, if they enter into a war, Israel will respond with strength. Will not be a good move for Syria or Lebanon to do that, because Israel will respond very strongly. Meanwhile, Joe Biden had a phone call with Netanyahu yesterday. He had a phone call. Afterwards, he made a very strong speech in which he condemned Hamas. I want to play the first part of Joe Biden's speech. You can watch that right here.
The president takes to the podium.
There are moments in this life, and I mean this literally, when the pure, unadulterated evil is unleashed on this world. The people of Israel lived through one such moment this weekend. The bloody hands of the terrorist organization Hamas, a group whose stated purpose for being is to kill Jews. This was an act of sheer evil. More than 1,000 civilians slaughtered, not just killed, slaughtered in Israel. Among them, at least 14 American citizens killed. Parents butchered, using their bodies to try to protect their children. Stomach-turning reports of babies being killed. Entire families slain. Young people massacred while attending a musical festival to celebrate peace. Women raped, assaulted, paraded as trophies. Families hid their fear for hours and hours, desperately trying to keep their children quiet to avoid drawing attention. And thousands of wounded, alive but carrying with them the bullet holes and the shrapnel wounds and the memory of what they endured. You all know these traumas never go away. There's still so many families desperately waiting to hear the fate of their loved ones, not knowing if they're alive or dead or hostages. Infants in their mother's arms, grandparents in wheelchairs, Holocaust survivors abducted and held hostage. Hostages whom Hamas has now threatened to execute in violation of every code of human morality. It's abhorrent. The brutality of Hamas, these bloodthirstiness, brings to mind the worst rampages of ISIS. This is terrorism. But sadly, for the Jewish people, it's not new. This attack has brought to the surface painful memories and the scars left by a millennia of anti-Semitism and genocide of the Jewish people. So in this moment, we must be crystal clear. We stand with Israel. We stand with Israel. And we will make sure Israel has what it needs to take care of its citizens, defend itself, and respond to this attack.
So I thought this was a great speech by Joe Biden, especially for him, who usually does not make very good speeches. So I thought this was great. It seemed very strong in support of Israel, condemning the horrific terror attacks, the horrific violence that has been happening. He made the speech again after the phone call that he had with Netanyahu. In the phone call, he reiterated the United States' strong support for Israel. He said, quote, "If the United States experienced what Israel experienced, our response would be swift, decisive, and overwhelming." I think that is absolutely true. And so he's saying that Israel can definitely do that. But what is sort of crazy, but probably not to be not very surprising, is he urged Netanyahu to minimize civilian casualties in the Gaza Strip. Which honestly, I think if any other country were in the place of Israel right now, I think Gaza would have been leveled to the ground by now, with way less consideration of civilians than Israel is doing. I think any other country would have responded with even more strength than Israel. They would not have had the tolerance that Israel has had for the past 15 years to deal with thousands of rockets coming out from Gaza, raining down on their civilian populations. I think any other country would have leveled Gaza to the ground by now. I read this report from NBC, which, if true, I haven't seen anything that completely verified it yet, but if it's true, could be huge, could be a very big deal here for Israel. This is from NBC. The Biden administration is coordinating with other countries on a plan that would offer safe passage out of Gaza for civilians who risk getting caught in the crossfire in the densely populated coastal enclave, administration officials said. Palestinian civilians and Americans in Gaza would escape the war zone through a southern corridor leading into Egypt under the plan being considered. With Israel preparing for a potential ground incursion into Gaza, civilians who have no connection to Hamas are in danger of being left homeless or killed by the shelling. As I said, the report has not been officially confirmed, so I guess we'll see what happens in the next few days, see what the Biden administration is up to, see what the plan is. But if this actually goes through, if they're actually able to evacuate civilians from Gaza, this would be a big deal, like major deal for Israel. It's with civilians out of the way, Israel could very easily level the Gaza Strip, completely take out all the terrorists very easily, start over from ground zero, declare sovereignty over the Gaza Strip, which they absolutely need to do to, the Palestinians have proved they can't have a self-governance down there in the Gaza Strip. It was just taken over by Hamas, been a terrorist hotspot down there. So they proved that they can't have their self-government down there. So Israel does need to redeclare sovereignty over the Gaza Strip. Guys, surprisingly, for once, it looks like the Biden administration might actually be putting actions to their words. Hopefully they will. Last night, the United States aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford, arrived off the coast of Cyprus with a whole convoy of destroyers and cruisers escorting the aircraft carrier. Also, according to Defense Department officials, they're considering sending a second aircraft carrier, the USS Dwight Eisenhower. I'm not sure exactly how the aircraft carrier and the planes, how they're going to help. But I guess we'll see in the next few days what the plan is with that and how they're going to help in the war effort against these horrible terrorists. Hundreds of thousands of IDF and security personnel have been called up to active duty to fight in the war that's happening. They've been called up to the front lines, which has left many of the communities here in Judea and Samaria vulnerable without adequate manpower and equipment. Guys, we're in personal contact with the security chiefs in the area all around us, and they've all told us they desperately need equipment. They need drones, flashlights, binoculars, much more. Guys, we're making orders of equipment to arrive within this week. Also, we have people flying into Israel who will be bringing equipment in their suitcases, but we need your help. Please help us join the emergency campaign. You can go to serveisrael.com/emergency, or you can click the link which is in the description below. Guys, this is super urgent. You can help us out. 100% of your donations will go directly into assisting the communities all around us. Donate today. I want to look at how the Anti-Israel Squad in Congress responded to the war in Israel. And by the squad, you know what I mean. Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, AOC, Cori Bush, all these guys, very anti-Israel, have a horrible history with Israel. While the rest of the world is at least saying they support Israel. You know, they might be critical. At least they're saying they support Israel. Even if they don't actually support Israel, the squad, they're being very clear. They're showing their Jew hatred and anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism very strongly, making themselves very clear. I want to first read a couple tweets from Ilhan Omar. On Sunday, she wrote this: I condemn the horrific acts we are seeing unfold today in Israel against children, women, the elderly, and the unarmed people who are being slaughtered and taken hostage by Hamas. Such senseless violence will only repeat the back-and-forth cycle we've seen, which we cannot allow to continue. We need to call for de-escalation and a ceasefire. I will keep advocating for peace and justice throughout the Middle East. No, we do not need a ceasefire. That is absolutely stupid. We do not need a ceasefire with Gaza. Israel needs to be stronger. There's no two sides here. Later, she posted, quote, reminder, Gaza doesn't have shelters or an Iron Dome, and to please pray for them. May peace prevail in the region and move us towards a moral awakening to care about the human suffering we are seeing. Palestinians are human beings who have been besieged and are deserving of protection from the international community. That's true. They don't have bomb shelters or an Iron Dome. You know why? Because they don't need them. Israel doesn't attack Gaza for no reason. So there's no need for the Gazans to defend themselves, because Israel is not on the offensive, because Gaza are the ones on the offensive and Israel is defending themselves by doing airstrikes. That is why the Gazans do not need bomb shelters. They do not need an Iron Dome. As I said before, we do not need a ceasefire. Whoever says we need a ceasefire, and as Ben Shapiro said, he said, if you're saying that there's a cycle of violence, that it's two-sided, that both sides are equal, that we need a ceasefire, you're part of the problem. Absolutely right. You are part of the problem. Rashida Tlaib, also part of the squad, she put out a statement where she said, quote, I grieve the Palestinian and Israeli lives lost yesterday. Notice how she said Palestinian first. I grieve the Palestinian and Israeli lives lost yesterday, today, and every day. I am determined as ever to fight for a just future where everyone can live in peace, without fear, and with true freedom, equal rights, and human dignity. The path to that future must include lifting the blockade, ending the occupation, and dismantling the apartheid system that creates the suffocating, dehumanizing conditions that can lead to resistance. The failure to recognize the violent reality of living under siege, occupation, and apartheid makes no one safer. No person, no child anywhere should have to suffer or live in fear of violence. We cannot ignore the humanity in each other. As long as our country provides billions in unconditional funding to support the apartheid government, this heartbreaking cycle of violence will continue. Now, what blows my mind is how anyone could say something like this with a straight face, how someone could just lie through their teeth like this. Rashida Tlaib, all the rest of the squad, Ilhan Omar, AOC, they're all horrible liars who are terror sympathizers and, as Ben Shapiro said, are part of the problem. This is not resistance. Going out and murdering innocent Israelis, going out murdering the elderly, women and children. This is not the resistance. How anyone could say this is just mind-boggling to me. Also, a Fox News reporter tried to get a statement from Rashida Tlaib on what Hamas is doing, condemning Hamas for the horrific acts they've been doing, and she completely ignored the reporter. Watch this video here.
Terrorists have cut off babies' heads and burned children alive. Do you support Israel's rights to defend themselves against this brutality?
We're just going to go through here.
You can't comment about Hamas terrorists chopping off babies' heads? comment on Hamas terrorists chopping off babies' heads? You have nothing to say about Hamas terrorists chopping off babies' heads? Do you condone what Hamas has done, chopping off babies' heads, burning children alive, raping women in the street? You have no comment about children's heads being chopped off? Congressman, why do you have a Palestinian flag outside your office if you do not condone what Hamas terrorists have done to Israel? Do Israeli lives not matter to you?
Absolutely disgusting display of Jew hatred by the squad right there. I didn't even get into what AOC and Cori Bush said. They also put out horrible statements about what is happening. We don't have time to get into those right now, but it's just horrible what they are saying. Guys, in conclusion, God is watching over Israel. He has a plan throughout all this horrific tragedy that is happening, but make sure to pray. Continue to pray for the nation, for the people of Israel. They need your strength. They need to know that there are millions of people all over the world praying for them, that the violence would cease. As Ben Shapiro said, he said, quote, "Evil never sleeps, but thankfully, neither does the justice of God." Guys, make sure you're on the right side of history. You don't want to be on the side of those who are standing against the promises of God. That is a serious place. That is a dangerous place to be in. You don't want to be there. Guys, make sure to check out our emergency fundraising campaign to provide the local communities in Judea and Samaria with desperately needed equipment. We'll have the link in the description below, or you can go to serveisrael.com/emergency. Don't forget to subscribe. Get the conversation going down below. As always, tune out the fake news and tune into what is actually happening here in the land of Israel. We'll be back every day, Monday through Friday, with your direct connection to the land and people of Israel.